a world dominated by the dollar, BRICS and Africa carve out a new path worth $260 billion.
International Monetary Fund's data reveals that US dollar's dominance as the world's primary reserve currency is slowly eroding.
Russia has suggested that BRICS countries should drop the US dollar.
BRICS nations have decided to create a special fund of $15 billion.
The BRICS group, originally comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, is expanding its membership to challenge the Western-dominated global economic order.
South Africa's Public Affairs Minister says in spite of cynicism from the West, BRICS has surpassed expectations.
Can you believe there's a world where the dollar doesn't rule supreme? What if entire continents could trade vast fortunes without even glancing at a US dollar? Imagine this for a second. BRICS countries teamed up with Africa, pushing a staggering $260 billion across borders with no dollars in sight. This isn't a scene from an alternative finance fiction. It's the real economic shakeup happening right now. Each transaction in this deal is a bold stroke, painting a future where economic diversity leads the way. In this new reality, the traditional global economic order is getting a major overhaul. The powerhouse nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are rewriting the rules, showing the world that there's another way to do business. These countries are not just stepping out of the shadow of the dollar. They are stepping into the light of a new era. This shift is not merely about preference for currency. It's about power, influence, and independence in the global market. So, what does this mean for the future? As these nations drive massive trade without the US dollar, they're not just making a statement. They're setting a precedent. Every deal done, every contract signed without the dollar paves the way for a more balanced global economic playground. Let's dive into how this bold economic rebellion is reshaping the world, making way for a new age of financial diversity and stability. Imagine playing a game where one type of playing card, a specific suit, has always dominated the game. Now, imagine that suddenly, the players decide to change the rules so that other suits can lead as well. This is exactly what's happening in the world of international trade. The BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have decided it's time to play a different game with their own cards, namely their currencies like the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan, and sometimes even the euro. This isn't just a casual choice. It's a major strategy to shake up a long-standing system. For decades, the US dollar has been the king of international trade, the main currency everyone uses to buy and sell across borders. But now, BRICS is stepping up, signaling that they're ready to challenge this dominance. This move is about more than just switching currencies. It's about altering the balance of economic power on a global scale, promoting a world where not just one, but multiple currencies have a say. So why go for such a drastic change? This shift towards using their own currencies is a direct response to the desire for a more balanced global economy, a multipolar world where power is more evenly distributed among various nations, not just concentrated in the hands of a few. This approach could lead to more stable and equitable economic relationships, reducing the reliance on any single currency and fostering a more diverse and resilient economic landscape.
It has previously suggested other ways to move away from the dollar as well. So, for example, bringing in a new payment system to challenge the SWIFT payment system. If you've ever transferred money to another country, it wants the BRICS countries to have their own version of that.
Think of Russia and China as the leading athletes in a relay race, setting a blistering pace to shift away from the US dollar. This is the race towards de-dollarization. And in this pivotal race, Africa isn't just cheering from the sidelines. It's an essential teammate passing the baton and accelerating the change. Together, these regions are not just participants, but are reshaping the rules of the global economic game. Africa's role is crucial here. It's like a vast reservoir of untapped potential, brimming with resources and burgeoning markets eager for development. By partnering strategically with Russia and China, Africa injects vital energy into this shift, moving the group closer to a finish line where economic power is more evenly distributed. This collaboration is about more than just trade. It's about crafting a new vision for global economics, where different continents and cultures bring their strengths to the table, creating a more balanced and fair playing field. This synergy between BRICS and Africa is transforming the landscape of international trade. As these nations unite, they are not only challenging the status quo, but are also paving the way for a more inclusive and equitable global trade system. They are building bridges where previously there were none, fostering connections that promise a richer, more diversified economic future for all involved.
Member countries of BRICS, a growing non-Western economic collective, are meeting for their 15th annual summit in South Africa this week with a big announcement. 5 new member countries have been added to the current bloc: Egypt, Ethiopia, Argentina, the UAE, Iran, and Saudi Arabia.
Picture Africa as a key player in a major league sports team. Though not every player is in the starting lineup, each one has a unique role that's vital for the team's success. In the global arena of de-dollarization, even though not all African nations are members of the BRICS bloc, their collective actions are instrumental. Each country, with its unique economic strategies and resources, contributes significantly to this shift away from the US dollar. Africa is teeming with natural resources: gold, diamonds, oil, and rare minerals, all of which are coveted on the global market. This wealth makes the continent a heavyweight ally in the push towards de-dollarization. Moreover, Africa's markets are on the rise, growing faster than many of the world's established economies. This rapid growth isn't just good news for Africa. It's a boon for BRICS countries looking to diversify their economic partnerships and reduce their dependency on traditional economic powers dominated by the dollar. This central role of Africa transforms it from a mere participant to a cornerstone in the new economic framework being constructed. By aligning with BRICS, Africa is not just following the trends but helping to lead the charge. Imagine a city where new buildings are popping up every day, businesses are opening, and more families are moving into middle-class neighborhoods. This growth isn't just changing the skyline, it's reshaping the economy. This is exactly what's happening across Africa as its middle class expands. With more disposable income and a growing appetite for goods and services, this demographic shift is transforming the continent from the ground up. As more Africans join the ranks of the middle class, their spending habits change. They're buying more, from smartphones to cars, and significantly, they're increasingly purchasing goods made in BRICS nations. This surge in consumption is powering local economies, and importantly, it's changing how Africa engages with the world economically. Instead of relying on the US dollar, more African nations are trading using their own currencies or those of their BRICS partners, like the ruble or yuan. This shift reduces their dependency on the dollar, giving them more control over their economic affairs. This rise of a robust middle class in Africa isn't just a boost for local markets. It's a crucial component in the global shift towards a multipolar economic world. It strengthens Africa's position as a dynamic player on the world stage, capable of influencing global markets and economic policies. Think of Africa as a treasure chest brimming with jewels of every kind: gold, diamonds, oil, and rare earth minerals. These aren't just shiny objects, they are powerful bargaining chips in the world of international trade. Africa's strategy to leverage these abundant natural resources is a bold move toward economic autonomy, a shift that is reshaping its role on the global stage. By tapping into this vast wealth, African countries are not just extracting value from the ground, they are crafting new trade agreements that prioritize their own currencies. This move is like opting to play a home game with home rules, where local currencies take center stage over the traditionally dominant US dollar. These agreements enable African nations to assert more control over their economic destinies, promoting sovereignty and reducing their historic dependency on external powers. This strategic use of natural resources serves as a foundation for a more empowered continent. It's not only about selling what's in the ground, but also about dictating the terms of trade, deciding who to partner with, and choosing how payments are made. These decisions place African countries in a stronger position to influence global economics, turning their natural wealth into a key driver of their economic independence.
In a thinly veiled statement, Chinese President Xi Jinping wrote, quote, "One country obsessed with maintaining its hegemony has gone out of its way to cripple the emerging markets in developing countries. Whoever is developing fast becomes its target of containment. Whoever is catching up becomes its target of obstruction."
Picture the BRICS nations as a team of engineers constructing an alternative pathway in the world of finance and trade. These countries are not just opting out of using the US dollar, they are actively building new tools and systems to support their choice. Initiatives like currency swap agreements and regional payment systems are like the nuts and bolts of this new construction. These mechanisms allow countries to exchange goods and services using their own currencies, bypassing the need for the dollar, which has long been the default medium of exchange. Currency swap agreements are particularly clever. Imagine two friends, each with their own set of tools, agreeing to borrow what they need from each other instead of buying new tools at the store. Similarly, these agreements allow countries to use each other's currencies for trade without having to convert to a common currency like the dollar first. This not only simplifies transactions, but also fortifies economic ties between these nations. Moreover, regional payment systems act like a neighborhood bank, specifically designed to handle transactions within the BRICS group. This system supports the use of local currencies, reducing transaction costs and processing times, and shielding these economies from the volatility often associated with reliance on the dollar. These strategic collaborations enhance economic stability and autonomy, giving the BRICS nations and their partners more control over their financial affairs. By creating and adopting these systems, BRICS is paving the way for a more balanced global economic environment where countries have the freedom to choose how they trade and grow.
The application of even more countries wanting to join signifies that there's something that the BRICS is doing right.
Imagine each African country at the helm of its own ship, navigating through the vast ocean of global economics. For years, these ships have been tethered to a powerful tugboat, the US dollar. But now, they're cutting those ropes, aiming to steer independently. This pursuit of de-dollarization is fundamentally about seizing control over their economic destinies, enabling them to chart a course that aligns with their unique circumstances and ambitions. By reducing their dependency on the US dollar, African nations are taking a bold step towards self-determination in economic policies. This move allows them to craft strategies that cater specifically to their needs without having to align with the external pressures that often accompany reliance on a global reserve currency. It's like customizing the settings on a device to fit your specific needs rather than sticking with the default that might not work as well for you. This shift not only fosters a sense of autonomy, but also builds resilience. Without the heavy reliance on the dollar, these countries are less vulnerable to economic shocks that originate in other parts of the world, like sudden fluctuations in the dollar's value that can wreak havoc on national economies. By forging their own paths, these nations can develop more sustainable economic practices that are insulated from such disturbances. The drive for economic sovereignty is about more than just financial transactions. It's about empowering African nations to grow on their own terms, creating a more stable and prosperous future for their citizens.
You might remember that South Africa, it approved a $1 billion loan to South Africa in June to help with some of the socio-economic effects of the pandemic, for example.
Imagine you're witnessing a grand finale at a spectacular fireworks show. Each burst of light in the sky symbolizes the emergence of new economic power centers, painting a vivid picture of change and possibility. This massive $260 billion trade initiative by BRICS, bolstered by the crucial support of Africa, represents just such a transformative display in the world of global economics. This isn't merely about the decline of the US dollar's long-held dominance. More importantly, it's about the rise of new economic players on the global stage, countries and regions ready to claim their rightful places in a more balanced and equitable world order. This shift is akin to a recalibration of the scales of economic power, ensuring that no single currency or nation dictates the global economic agenda. The collaboration between BRICS and Africa is a beacon for what's possible when nations come together to challenge the status quo and create a fairer economic landscape. It's a powerful statement that the future of global trade will not be governed by the past, but will be reshaped by the collective efforts of nations seeking greater equity and stability. As we close this discussion, let's remember that this moment is not just a turning point but a promise of what's to come, a world where economic power is more widely distributed and more reflective of the diverse and dynamic contributions of all nations. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.